My buddy Jake turned 50 last month. We went out for drinks, and about 3 beers in, he said something that's been stuck in my head ever since. You know what's wild? I've made over $3 million in my lifetime, literally earned $3 million, and I have maybe $85,000 to show for it. He wasn't broke. He had a decent job, a house with equity, a 401k he'd been contributing to, but he'd also spent 30 years making what he called small, reasonable decisions that added up to one giant mistake. And the thing is, Jake's not alone. Gen X is sitting in this weird spot right now. Old enough to see the finish line, young enough that there's still time to fix things, but carrying this quiet weight of regret about money decisions that seemed fine at the time. So today, I want to walk through the specific mistakes Gen X keeps telling me about, not to pile on, but because if you're in your 40s or 50s right now, you still have a window, a narrow one, but it's there. The first one is the house. And I know what you're thinking, but buying a house was supposed to be smart. It was, kind of. Except most Gen Xers didn't just buy a house. They bought the biggest house they could qualify for. Here's what happened. You're 32 years old in 2005. The bank pre-approves you for $400,000. You're making $75,000 a year. Your mortgage broker says you're approved. You can totally afford this. So you buy the $380,000 house instead of the $250,000 house because why leave money on the table, right? Monthly payment on the $380,000 house at 6% interest, about $2,280. Monthly payment on the $250,000 house, about $1,500. That's a $780 difference every month. Doesn't sound catastrophic. But here's the thing nobody told you. That house doesn't just cost $780 more per month in mortgage. It costs more in property tax, maybe $200 more in insurance, another $80, more in utilities because it's bigger, call it $100, more in maintenance because there's more house to maintain, figure $150 a month averaged out. Suddenly, that $780 difference is actually $1,310 per month. Over 30 years, that's $471,600 more spent on housing. Now, you might say, yeah, but the house appreciated. Sure, let's say both houses appreciated at the same rate, about 3% annually. The bigger house is now worth about $920,000. The smaller one is worth $600,000. You gained an extra $320,000 in equity. Congratulations. But you spent an extra $471,600 to get it. You're down $151,600. And here's the part that really stings. If you'd bought the cheaper house and invested that $1,310 monthly difference in an index fund, at 10% returns over 30 years, you'd have $2.8 million, not $320,000 in extra equity, $2.8 million in investments. The house didn't build wealth, it consumed it. And every Gen Xer I talk to who bought the big house in their 30s, they know this now, they can feel it, they just didn't see it at the time. Second regret. The endless car payments. Gen X got caught in this trap harder than any generation because they hit their peak earning years right when car culture went insane. Suddenly, everyone needed an SUV. Then everyone needed a luxury SUV. Let me tell you about my sister. She's 48. For the last 25 years, she has literally never not had a car payment. Started in her early 20s with a Honda Accord, $280 a month. Paid it off after 5 years and immediately traded it in for a Nissan Pathfinder, $420 a month. Paid that off, got a Toyota 4Runner, $520 a month, then a Lexus RX, $680 a month. Now she's driving a loaded Audi Q5, $740 a month. She's been making an average car payment of about $500 a month for 25 years. That's $150,000 sent to car lenders. But wait. It gets worse. If instead of making car payments, she'd bought a reliable used car for $8,000 cash every 8 years, 3 cars over 25 years equals $24,000 total, and invested that $500 a month, At 10% returns over 25 years, she'd have $649,000. $649,000 gone, vanished into cars that are now worth nothing. And when I showed her this math, you know what she said? I knew. I always knew in the back of my mind, but I told myself I worked hard, I deserved a nice car, and everyone else was doing it too. That's the psychological trap. It wasn't about the car. It was about the feeling of success, the signal to herself and others that she'd made it. But the real people who made it, they drove boring cars and invested the difference. Third mistake, waiting to invest. Gen X had the most powerful wealth-building tool in history available to them, time and compound interest in a bull market that lasted decades. The S&P 500 in 1990, around 330. The S&P 500 in 2020, around 3,700. If you invested $500 a month starting in 1990, by 2020, you'd have about $1.8 million. But most Gen Xers didn't start in 1990. They started in 2000, or 2005, or 2010, or they still haven't really started. Why? Because in your 20s, retirement feels like science fiction. You've got student loans, you're trying to have fun, you're getting established. Investing can wait. Then in your 30s, you've got a mortgage, kids, daycare costs, money's tight. You'll start investing when things calm down. Then in your 40s, you're finally making decent money. But now you've got college funds to think about, aging parents, maybe a divorce. You're playing catch up. And now you're 50. And the math is brutal. If you want $1 million by 65 and you're starting at 50, you need to invest about $2,200 per month at 10% returns. If you'd started at 25, you'd only need to invest $260 per month. That delay cost you $1,940 per month in required contributions. And every Gen Xer who waited feels this. They don't talk about it at parties, but they know. They're doing the math in their heads at 2 a.m., wondering if they can actually retire. Fourth regret, and this one's uncomfortable. Overfunding their kids. Gen X wanted to give their kids what they didn't have. Better childhoods, better stuff, less financial stress. So they paid for travel sports. $3,000 a year. The good summer camps, $2,500. The family vacation every year, $5,000. New car when the kid turned 16, $18,000. College completely paid for, $120,000. Add it up over 18 years per kid, and you're looking at $200,000 plus per child in extras beyond basic food, housing, and clothing. 2 kids? That's $400,000. Now, I'm not saying don't invest in your kids, but here's the question nobody asks. What's the opportunity cost? $400,000 invested over 20 years at 10% returns becomes $2.7 million. So the real choice was, give your kids a comfortable childhood or give yourself a secure retirement and set an example of financial responsibility. Most Gen Xers chose the first option, and now they're 55, watching their kids struggle with money management despite having had everything handed to them, while they themselves are behind on retirement savings. One guy told me, I paid for everything so my daughter wouldn't have to struggle. Now she's 26, has no concept of delayed gratification, and I'm working overtime to catch up on my 401k. I don't regret helping her, but I do regret not teaching her to help herself. Fifth mistake, the one-way lifestyle ratchet. This is the silent killer. Every time Gen Xers got a raise, they upgraded their life. New job paying $10,000 more. New apartment. Promotion to $90,000. Nicer car. Hit 6 figures. Better neighborhood, private school for the kids, country club membership. The psychological principle here is called hedonic adaptation. You get used to the new normal almost immediately, and it stops feeling special. But the cost stays forever. Here's what that looked like in practice. At $60,000 salary, living costs are $50,000, saving $10,000 per year. At $80,000 salary, living costs ratchet to $70,000, still saving $10,000 per year. At $100,000 salary, living costs hit $88,000, saving $12,000 per year. You tripled your income and barely moved the needle on savings. If instead you'd kept living costs at $50,000 while your income grew to $100,000, you'd be saving $50,000 a year. Over 20 years, that's an extra $800,000 in investments. But lifestyle ratchets only go one direction. Once you're used to the nice house, the nice car, the nice vacations, cutting back feels like failure, like going backward. So people don't. They just keep spending everything they make, always. Here's what connects all of these mistakes. They all felt reasonable at the time. Nobody woke up and said, I'm going to sabotage my financial future. They said, I work hard. I deserve this house. Everyone has a car payment. I'll start investing next year when I have more breathing room. I want my kids to have it better than I did. This raise is a chance to finally live a little. Every single decision in isolation made sense. But money doesn't work in isolation. It works in systems, in patterns, in compounding effects over decades. And the system Gen X was operating in told them, earn more, spend more, look successful, and it'll all work out. It didn't. But here's the thing, and this is important. If you're Gen X, you're not done. You're 45, 50, 55. You've got 10 to 20 years of peak earning power left, maybe more. And if you make changes now, you can still salvage this. Step 1. Stop the bleeding. Whatever lifestyle expenses are draining you right now, the car payment, the oversized house, the country club you never use, evaluate whether they're actually worth the opportunity cost. You don't have to slash everything, but be honest about what you're trading for each expense. Step 2. Max out retirement accounts immediately. If you're 50 plus, you can contribute $31,000 to your 401k in 2024, including catch-up contributions. Do it. Even if you have to cut other spending, you've got maybe 15 years left to compound. Don't waste them. Step 3. Consider working longer, but differently. I know that's not what you want to hear, but working until 67 instead of 62 can make a massive difference. Your investments have 5 more years to grow, Social Security benefits increase, and you have 5 fewer years to fund in retirement, or consider semi-retirement. Work part-time doing something you actually enjoy, cover your expenses, and let your investments keep growing. Step 4. Have the hard conversation with your kids. If you're still subsidizing adult children or planning to leave them a massive inheritance while your own retirement is shaky, stop. Your kids will figure it out. You being financially dependent on them in your 70s is a much bigger burden than them having to pay their own cell phone bill. Step 5. Optimize what you've got. Refinance the mortgage if rates make sense. Trade the luxury car for something reliable and paid off. Cut subscriptions you don't use. Every $500 a month you free up and invest can become $100,000 plus over 15 years. Look, I'm not here to shame Gen X. You were sold a story. Work hard, buy stuff, everything will be fine. That story was wrong, and now you're living with the consequences. But you're also at an interesting inflection point. You can see the mistakes clearly now. You've got just enough time left to fix some of them. Not all, but some. So the question is, are you going to spend the next 15 years doing the same thing, hoping it somehow works out? Or are you going to make different choices, harder choices, less comfortable choices that actually lead somewhere? My buddy Jake, the one with $85,000 after earning $3 million, he's making changes now. Downsizing the house, selling the Audi, maxing out his 401k. He told me, I can't get back the last 30 years, but I'll be damned if I waste the next 15. That's the move.